Cesar Chavez? Was he a hero? Was he a villain? We won't get into that today, but what I do know was he was, at least for the last portion of his life, a vegan. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Threpticon. Today we're going to talk about Cesar Chavez, a workers' rights activist and a vegan. So briefly, I'll talk about his life. So he was born in Yuma, Arizona in 1927, and then he later became a union organizer and public speaker, working principally with the UFW, the United Farm Workers. And for many years, he was considered an icon of the Chicano community in the United States, so much so that his name was placed on many streets, for example, Albuquerque has this Cesar Chavez Street, I think, something like that. Many cities, especially the Southwest, California, that's where most of his work was, in California, farm workers. That's where a lot of the farms were, the grape vineyards that for the famous protests. But anyway, the last month, so right before the celebration of this year's Cesar Chavez Day, his birthday was the 31st of March, so like a couple weeks before then, allegations came to light. It turned out he had abused some young women, right? And there were children that were born that were not acknowledged, things like that. So a lot of statues and celebrations have been eliminated, right? They've taken the statues down. They've stopped the celebrations. Maybe they'll change the names of all the streets. But anyway, it's just a brief recounting of his life. And he died in 1993, so it's been a while now. But like I said, these sexual abuse allegations are recent. That's it. He was this union organizer, and he was this vegan guy. He was this public speaker. He did say these things. He has all these written works. So his thought, how could we describe it? The huge influence would be socialism, right? Workers' rights, unionism, human rights, right? Also Catholicism, especially kind of heavily based in Mexican traditions, right? Roots, kind of a roots Catholicism, Catholicism of the abuelita, things like that. So even in these marches, right, these workers' marches, they would take banners of the Virgin of Guadalupe. It was just an important symbol for their cause, and they even use the Spanish term "la causa." Exactly, and then of course nonviolence in the vein of Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi. Once again, Gandhi, another vegetarian, fasting, who used fasting as a means of protest. Cesar Chavez is going to do the same thing. Gandhi, also eating essentially a vegan diet for many years, vegetarian diet almost all of his life. Cesar Chavez is going to emulate that. MLK, if he had lived longer, he would have definitely driven at a vegan diet like his widow had, Coretta, in the last years of his life. Her life, sorry. Anyway, let's talk about his fall from grace, right? You see these articles just recently published. Mainly, there was a New York Times article, that's the big one, how Cesar Chavez abused his power. So about how he abused young women and girls. So this has caused a lot of problems with these big celebrations. I mean, there's even a holiday in his name, so now people are uncomfortable with that. But coming back to the theme of vegetarianism, which is undeniable, sure, yeah, he was a bad man, but at the same time, he said some positive things. Cesar was a vegan, according to his niece. He didn't eat any animal products. He was a vegan because he believed in animal rights, but also for his health. Chavez said, growing up, I was always surrounded by vegetarians, and vegetarian meals were always an option. When Cesar died, I decided to become a vegetarian in honor of him. So there we go, claiming that he was vegan from someone who knew him very well. And the main quote that gets repeated regarding Cesar Chavez and his own vegetarianism is this quote here. I became a vegetarian after realizing that animals feel afraid, cold, hungry, and unhappy like we do. I feel very deeply about vegetarianism and the animal kingdom. It was my dog Boycott who led me to question the right of humans to eat other sentient beings. I don't know if that's the dog pictured here. He had one dog Boycott, the other one Huelga, Spanish for strike, workers' strike. Um, but anyway, he arrived at the idea of anti-speciesism, right? Seeing his dog, he said, "Why would I eat? I wouldn't eat this beautiful animal. Why would I eat any beautiful animal?" So that's it. We've come to the almost to the end here. So, what are the pros and cons of this hero worship, this idea of the great men that shape history? That's what below there. So, this idea of, we see this a lot in the past, but like these major figures, like we've seen them: Tolstoy, Gandhi, MLK, Cesar Chavez. So, I mean, I'll partly answer the question. Clearly, it's kind of problematic when we find out that they weren't everything that people thought they were. Here's my bibliography for today, and with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.